Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. So it is at 11 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started here. For anyone who has just joined our information session, I want to introduce myself. My name is Grant. I'm going to be presenting the information session today. So the information session is scheduled to go about an hour. Typically it's a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, depending on how many questions we have. So we have about a 15-20 minute question and answer period at the end of the information session. Before we start though, I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. I know it takes an hour out of your day, so I hope you find something very useful or helpful about the CAEL in terms of preparation, in terms of the test itself, how the test works, what the format is like. We do have free study tips that we're going to go through today as well. So I hope you find something informative, but I want to thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to quickly go through the agenda here, what we're going to be speaking about. So we are going to start with some general information about the CAEL, including key features and benefits. We're going to go through the format and scoring of the CAEL assessments. We're going to go pretty much in detail about the format as well, just because this is a very unique test. This is probably the only test like it is the CAEL. So it is an integrated test. We're going to explain what that means. So the format is very important, and so we're going to go through that and how the scoring works. We're going to go through other test information as well, though, including how to prepare for the CAEL and what you expect on the test itself. And then we do have those free study tips, as I mentioned. And then, as I mentioned as well, we're going to save about 15-20 minutes for any questions that you guys have. I would just ask, in terms of questions, please just make sure that you hold any questions until that question and answer period starts. So if you want to know how to ask the question, it would be at the top orange arrow on the top right-hand side of the page. You just click that arrow, and then you'll be able to type into the question fields. But just to make sure that you're not just being distracted from the information, also just because you may have your question answered during the information session, I would just please ask that you hold off any questions until that question and answer period starts. If you do have any questions right now or during the information session itself, I would definitely recommend writing down any questions that you have. Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and get started on the actual information. So we're going to start with the very basics, just in case this is the first time you've heard about CAEL. So what is CAEL? It is the Canadian Academic English Language Assessment, and it is pronounced CAEL. So you're never going to be asked on the test, what does CAEL stand for? How do you pronounce CAEL? We do get a couple different pronunciations, like SAIL, for example, but it is pronounced CAEL. But again, you're never going to be asked any of that information on the test, just in case you want to know. There it is for you. And so the CAEL is there to prove your English language proficiency if you're applying to Canadian universities and colleges, professional associations. So a lot of people that take the CAEL are for the ICCRC, applying to become an immigration consultant. As you're going to see as we go through this information session, though, even if you're applying to an international university or college, or a college or university in the United States, or a professional association, so many schools or institutions accept the CAEL. So you're going to find out that even ones outside of Canada accept our test. And so the CAEL does test your English language proficiency in 4 different areas, so listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And the test registration fee is $225 plus tax. So we do have test centers all across Canada. So in every province in Canada, if you're in a major city especially, you should have no problem finding a test center. So if you go onto our website, www.cael.ca, you will be able to see all of our test centers. We are always looking to add more and more. One of our goals is to make sure that the whole CAEL experience is as convenient for you guys as possible. We do recognize, of course, that it's a high-stakes test. You're applying to become an immigration consultant. You're applying for entry into a university program. You're applying to become something else in a professional association or a school. So we do, of course, recognize that the CAEL is high stakes. You're taking the test for very important reasons. But as much as possible, we want to make sure that the experience itself is as convenient for you guys as possible. So we are always looking to add more and more test centers to make sure that you don't have to go too far out of your way to take the test. So what I'd recommend doing, of course, as I mentioned, is going on to our website, www.cael.ca, seeing all of our test centers. But you can actually sign up for a newsletter on our website, and then you'll be the first to know when we've opened up new CAEL test centers, because we're always looking to do that more and more. And you're also going to be able to find out when we run promotions or discounts. So those are included in our newsletters. So definitely recommend signing up for the newsletter, just so you're the first to know about what promotions or discounts or any test centers that we're opening or any news about the CAEL. And so you can sign up for that newsletter on our website again. So I'm just going to give a little background about the CAEL. So it is a Canadian test. That's a really cool feature about the CAEL. And it was originally developed at the Carleton University in Ottawa. It's now administered by us, the Paragon Testing Enterprises here in Vancouver. And we are a subsidiary of the University of British Columbia here in Vancouver as well. In terms of test delivery, the CAEL is very unique. So the first part, which is your reading, your writing, and your listening sections, is paper-based. And that takes approximately 2 hours. And then the second part of the test is your speaking test, or the oral language test. And that takes approximately 25 minutes, and that's presented in front of a computer. So in that case, there is actually no human examiners in terms of your speaking section. Some different tests, you actually have to speak to an actual human examiner, have an interview. So with the CAEL, you're speaking into a microphone, and your responses are sent to our raters. There's a lot of benefits that we hear about that. So on test day, if you're having to speak with a human examiner, having an interview in the speaking section, oftentimes you have to come back on a different day and do the speaking section. So that's very unlikely that that would happen with the CAEL because you are speaking in front of a computer. You're also not going to be speaking to someone that you don't know. Because as I mentioned, the CAEL is a high-stakes test. All these English proficiency tests all are. So if you're speaking to a human examiner, of course you're not going to know who they are. You might feel intimidated. You might feel that they're not listening to you, not paying attention. You might worry that they're not able to understand you, or that they have some sort of bias. So with our speaking section, you're speaking in front of speaking into a microphone that's attached to your headphones, so you don't have to worry about any bias. You don't have to worry about feeling intimidated. And also, again, because it's a high-stakes test, during the speaking section, if you're having an interview with a human examiner, you might forget what the question is. I mean, it happens. It's a test, right? I mean, you might forget, what was even asked while you're speaking. So with our speaking-based oral language test, because it's in front of a computer, you're going to have the question in front of you the whole time, so you don't need to worry about that. Now, we do use Canadian English and accents. It's a Canadian test, as I mentioned. So it's the same Canadian English that you're seeing or hearing on a daily basis. Same thing with the accents in the listening section. It's going to be the same accents that you hear on a daily basis. One thing I will mention, in terms of the speaking section, some test takers worry, I have an accent. I'm going to be penalized. I'm not going to get as high as the score as I need. So keep in mind that our raters that they know that everyone is going to have a different accent in the speaking section. I'm going to have a different accent than somebody else that works here is. Even as a native English speaker, everyone has a different accent, and our raters are expecting you to have a different accent. So definitely don't worry about your accent. One thing I would just not worry about, but make sure that you prepare, is that if you feel that you have trouble pronouncing words, that someone's maybe not able to understand what you're saying because you're having trouble pronouncing words, definitely something that's something that you want to prepare on before you take the CAEL. So some other key features and benefits is that the CAEL is an integrated task-based test, and it's on one topic for the reading, writing, and listening sections. So we are going to go through what that means in just a few minutes. The CAEL is also accepted by actually over 180 post-secondary institutions and professional institutions now. Another reason to take the CAEL is that it actually has a very easy online registration. So it only takes about 10 minutes, maybe not even, to complete the registration. You don't have to go in person to one of our test centers and register. Actually, they don't even accept registrations. So you'd only be able to register online or one of our head offices in Vancouver and Toronto. But online registration is so easy. I mean, you don't even need to leave your living room. You can be wearing pajamas and you can register if you want. So it's very easy online registration. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that we do provide a free online sample test on our website. So as you can see, it's on www.cael.ca. So for everyone in this information session, biggest recommendation I can make in terms of preparing for the CAEL is taking that free online sample test. It's going to give you a really good idea of what the format is like and how prepared you feel as well. And then if you need more preparation, as you can see, we have helpful study materials as well. But again, the free online sample test, if I was taking the CAEL, that's what I would start with first. I would say, I would take that free online sample test. What is this test like? And then I would see what it's like, what the format is like, and how prepared I feel. And then I would look into preparing even further than that. But the sample test, I mean, it's free. I mean, why not? So I definitely recommend taking that as the first step in terms of your preparation. Even if you're a native English speaker, I mean, like myself, I would still take the free sample test. I would still take advantage of the study material. Even if you feel very confident in an academic test setting, I would still recommend taking the free sample test and our study material just to make sure that you get the score that you need. So even if you feel very confident, definitely please make sure that you prepare. We noticed that those test takers who struggle the most with the CAEL are the ones that have gone in and they haven't done any preparation, unfortunately. So those test takers who do prepare definitely tend to do better on the test. So definitely that's the first tip I can give today, is make sure that you prepare for the test. So in terms of results, once you've taken the test, results are posted online in 15 business days. So you do get an email notification once your results are posted. And then your scores stay online in your CAEL account. So we keep your results valid for up to 2 years from the time that you take the test. So even if it's 6 months down the road from when you took your test, a year down the road, you're wondering, hey, what did I get on that CAEL test? What did I get on that CAEL assessment? You will actually be able to sign into your CAEL account. Your results are still going to be there. Now, we do send hard copy official score reports to institutions that you're applying to. So test results can be sent up to 5 institutions free of charge. So the results can only be sent to the institutions free of charge if you choose up to 4 days before your test to have your results sent to them. So when you're registering for the CAEL, we are going to ask which institutions you'd like to have your results sent to. And even up to 4 days before your test, you will be able to add or delete or let us know that you want your results sent to different institutions. Unfortunately, if it's less than 4 days before your test or after your results have been released, an official score report can be sent still. It is $20 plus tax. So definitely make sure that you take advantage of having your results sent to 5 institutions free of charge when you're registering for the CAEL or up to 4 days before the test. So how does the scoring work in the CAEL? So you get a score for each component of the test that you take. So you get a score in the reading section, listening section, writing section, and the oral language test or the speaking test. And then you also get an overall score as well. So the lower score that you can get is a 10 to 20, which we would say means that you can communicate with limited ability, and that would stand for a low beginner. If you go a little bit higher up, let's say a 50, that means that we would say that you're able to exhibit some competence in academic or professional settings, but that communication may break down in some places, and that would translate into a high intermediate. A 60, for example, would mean displaying competence in academic or professional settings. We would say that translates into advanced. 70 would be uses general accurate language in most settings. Some limitations and flexibility are evident, and we would say that translates into adept. And finally, the top score that you can receive is a 90. We would say that that means that you're able to communicate accurately and effectively in all professional and academic settings, and that would translate into a fluent. So it's very unlikely that you would need a 90 for the type of application that you're applying to. So keep in mind that we do not actually set a pass or fail. What happens is that you're applying to a different institution, let's say the ICCRC, for example, to become an immigration consultant, or let's say you're applying to the University of British Columbia. So they'll have a minimum score requirement that you need to meet for your type of application. So you always want to check with the institution that you're applying to see what their minimum score requirements are, to see if you've gotten that result that you need. So in terms of who accepts CAEL, as I mentioned, that over 150 post-secondary institutions and professional associations across Canada, the United States, and even internationally accept the CAEL. So if you're applying to a university in Canada, for example, it's very, very likely that they are going to accept the CAEL. Same thing if you're applying internationally or the United States even. So what I would just recommend is going onto our website, www.cael.ca, for a full listing of institutions and associations. But you may find out from a school or institution that they accept the CAEL and you're not seeing it on our website. So definitely just send us an email or a call. Then we'll be able to, of course, verify that and make sure that they are added on the list of institutions that accept the CAEL. But again, there's over 150 institutions, so if you're applying somewhere, it's very likely that they're going to accept the CAEL. But just make sure that you check the list or check with your institution before you register for the test, just to make sure. All right, so we're going to go through the format. So as I mentioned before when we started the information session, the CAEL is very unique, and there's some really cool qualities about the CAEL as well. So one of the coolest qualities about the CAEL is that in the reading, the listening, and the writing sections, all of the answers are provided for you on the test itself. So you don't need to memorize facts or information before coming into the test. You need to make sure that you're preparing for your academic English language proficiency. But you don't need to memorize facts or information. You don't need to study, let's say, history before you come take the CAEL. You just want to make sure, again, that you're preparing for your academic English language proficiency. So you are going to see one topic at first, and that topic is going to go through the reading, the listening, and the writing sections. So you're going to read about that topic, and you're going to answer questions based on what you read. You're going to hear an audio lecture about a topic, and you're going to answer questions about that same topic. And then you're going to use what you read and what you've listened in the writing section. So you can even take, like, say, a quotation from what you've read and use that in the writing section. So, for example, you may get a topic, let's say it's the environment. You're going to read about a topic about the environment. You're going to hear about that same topic about the environment. And you're going to use what you've read and what you've heard in your writing response. So that's what we mean by an integrated test. You are going to be having the same topic for the reading, the listening, and the writing sections. You only get a different topic in the speaking section, the oral language test, but all topics, texts, and tasks, all topics, texts, and tasks for all activities are drawn from first-year introductory courses. And as I mentioned before, the total test time takes approximately 2 hours and 25 minutes. Now, of course, if you finish a little bit early, and you finish the speaking section, you finish the reading, the writing, and the listening, we're not going to keep you in the room, but it does take approximately 2 hours and 25 minutes. Sorry, 2 hours and 25 minutes to finish the CAEL assessment. So I'm going to go through the format a little bit more in detail for you. So part one, as we remember, is the reading, the writing, and the listening section, and it's all going to be on the same topic. So you're given about 25 minutes to finish the first section of the reading section. So you're going to be reading a passage, and you're going to be answering questions based on what you've read. So it might be a multiple choice question. You might be needing to write down some information that you've read. Then in the listening section, you're given 20 minutes. You're going to be listening to an audio lecture. While you're listening, you're going to be taking notes, and you're going to be answering questions based on what you've heard. Then there's another reading section. You're going to be reading a passage about the same topic, and then you're given 30 minutes to answer questions based on what you read. And then finally, we're asking you to write we're giving you 45 minutes to write a passage or an essay based on what you read and listened as well. So the reading, the listening, and the writing, remember, are always on the same topic, and samples are taken from those introductory university courses. So in the reading, listening, and writing sections, we're asking you a couple things: that you're able to identify main ideas, understand academic vocabulary, and follow a sequence of events. So the biggest thing that I can give a tip on, as I before, is please make sure that you take our free sample test, so you can actually see sample questions and a sample test booklet for the reading, the listening, and the writing sections on our website with that free sample test. And again, that can be found on our website at www.cael.ca. So again, in the listening section, you are going to be listening to a pre-recorded lecture on the same topic as the reading and writing components. Just keep in mind that this recording can only be played once. So just like if you're having a conversation with someone, or if you're listening to a professor talk, unfortunately you're not able to pause them, you're not able to rewind them. So just like that, that's how the CAEL listening section works. The recordings are only played once. And so that's why we would recommend that you take notes during the listening section. I would strongly recommend, though, that you don't write down every single word that you're hearing, because then you're not going to have enough time, or you're not going to fully comprehend what you've heard. So I'd recommend just writing down important notes based on what you're hearing. And then you are going to be answering questions at the same time as you're taking notes and listening as well. And then the writing section is always the final part of these part one, the reading, writing, and listening section. And in terms of word length, we're asking you to write typically 1 to 2 pages in length. So definitely make sure that you take a look at our free sample test on our website, just so you get a better idea of what the format is like. We don't want you going into the CAEL not knowing what to expect. We don't want to give you any surprises in terms of the test format, or in terms of how the CAEL assessment works. So definitely, this is why you probably joined our information session today, is to get a better idea of the test, but also just make sure you take that free sample test so you get an even better idea of seeing what the CAEL assessment is like. And then part two is the oral language test, or the speaking section, and you're given about 25 minutes. We do provide you with a headset with a microphone attached to it, and the headset is a noise-canceling headset. And so you're going to be speaking into that microphone. And you're given 5 tasks to mimic conversations about studies at universities and colleges. And just keep in mind that the oral language test, or the speaking section, is on a different topic. So remember that maybe you'll have, for example, a topic about the environment for the reading, listening, and writing section. For the speaking section, you will have a completely separate topic. But you still don't need to memorize facts or information for the speaking test. Again, you want to make sure that you're preparing your academic English language proficiency. So in the speaking section or the oral language test, we're asking that you're able to demonstrate that you can present ideas, relay information, or participate in group discussions. One thing I'll quickly mention about the speaking test, so it is in front of a computer. Again, you're going to have a headset and you're going to have a noise canceling headphone attached to the headset. Sorry, the headset is noise canceling. The microphone is where you're going to be speaking into, and your responses are recorded and sent to our readers. We're actually, though, not requiring you to use the computer mouse or the keyboard in the speaking section. So if you worry that maybe you're not very proficient with computers, although I think most of you are because you joined our information session, but if you do have any worries or concerns that you're not very proficient with a computer, keep in mind that the oral language test, you don't need to use the computer mouse or keyboard. And again, so please make sure you take our free sample test. You can find even oral language, the oral language test or speaking samples on that free sample test, and that can be found at www.cael.ca. So now you know what the test format is like. You know that we have that free sample test. You know some benefits about the CAEL, like the integrated test, topics that you don't need to study facts or information, and all of the answers are included in the test itself for the reading, writing, and listening section. So what do you need to bring on test day? So once you register for the CAEL, you do receive a test admission ticket online in your CAEL account. So you are required to bring a copy of that test admission ticket, so you can print that off and you can bring it with you. Then you need to make sure that you bring your original and valid identification that you registered with. So you can bring an original and valid passport. So original just means that we don't accept photocopies, we don't accept scans or pictures. It has to be the actual passport. And valid just means that we do not accept an expired passport or identification. Now, if you don't have an original and valid passport, we do luckily accept 2 other pieces of Canadian issued photo identification. So it could be an original and valid citizenship card, permanent resident card, driver's license, a health card with a photo. I know we had a few people from Alberta, so I believe in Alberta the health cards don't have a photo, so we wouldn't be able to accept that, or a Canadian identification card. So again, if you don't have an original and valid passport, you can bring 2 other pieces of Canadian issued photo identification. But do just make sure that you do bring the identification that you registered with. This is not to scare anyone, but just make sure that you do, because unfortunately, if you don't have your original and valid identification that you registered with, you are not allowed into the test, and you will need to register and pay for a new test, and we don't want that to happen to any of you. So just make sure that you bring the original and valid identification that you registered with. So other than the test admission ticket, other than your original and valid photo identification, we also allow you to bring a pen, a pencil, and eraser into the test center as well. Keep in mind, though, that everything else is provided for you. We provide you, of course, note paper. We provide you the test booklet itself, so where you're going to be writing your answers, and also where you're going to be reading. We're going to provide you with headphones and a microphone for the speaking section. So everything else is provided for you. Just make sure you bring your original and valid photo identification that you registered with, your test admission ticket, and a pen, a pencil, and eraser. All right, so in terms of test preparation, we are going to go through a few of our CAEL study materials here. But again, the biggest tip that I can provide for everyone that's coming into the CAEL, that's taking the test, definitely take that free sample test first, see what the CAEL is like, how prepared you feel, and then start with our study material after that. Seeing, the free sample test is going to give you a really good idea of what areas you might need to work on, what areas that you're doing very well on, and that would help you choose which study material that would best benefit you in terms of preparing for the CAEL. So the first study material that I'm going to mention is our test takers preparation guide. So we do have 3 volumes, volume 1, 2, and 3. They are available as a paperback book or as an ebook version. So the paperback book we would mail out to you. The ebook version, you would have access to it immediately online after you make the purchase. The content is exactly the same in the paperback version or the ebook version. It really just depends if you prefer to study with a physical book in front of you or you prefer to study with a computer in front of you. So the test taker's preparation guide includes key information about test formats, scoring, what skills and strategies that you would want to prepare for before taking the CAEL. And then the biggest thing that the CAEL test taker's preparation guides include is many practice tests. So if you buy volume 1, you get so many practice tests. Volume 2, you get even more practice tests. And volume 3, you get even more practice tests. So that's what we get a lot of feedback from test takers about, is that practicing the types of questions that you may receive, the different types of questions that you may receive, helps them prepare for the CAEL the most. Now keep in mind that just like the free sample test, you won't see the same questions on the test taker's preparation guide that you do on the actual CAEL assessment. So the CAEL is not a memorization test. That's why you don't need to memorize any facts or information before coming into the test. You just need to, it is an English proficiency test, so you want to make sure that you're preparing your academic English language proficiency. But you're not going to be able to see the same questions on the test taker's preparation guide practice tests that you do on the actual test, but they are going to help you prepare for the CAEL, absolutely. And then every volume also includes transcripts, answer keys, and reading booklets, and the audio files for the listening section, for example, are provided in your CAEL account if you purchase the paperback versions. Now, right now we do have a promotion where if you purchase all 3 books in print or paperback or ebook version, you do save $30 versus buying each preparation guide volume separately. So definitely take advantage of that while the promotion is ongoing. And then the next study material that we have is our CAEL preparation pack. So this is actually an online study material that you receive immediately after you make the purchase. It includes videos, includes practice tests with answer keys. It's available for you immediately after you make the purchase. And it's designed to help you improve your academic vocabulary and also develop your essay writing skills. So academic vocabulary is so important for the CAEL. I think that's something, unfortunately, that some people forget when preparing for the CAEL, is that it is an academic test. That doesn't mean that you need to be a rocket science to excel and do very well on the CAEL. We're looking at your everyday academic vocabulary, your academic skills. That's what we're assessing in the CAEL. But you definitely want to make sure that you are preparing for an academic test. And that's what this CAEL preparation pack is going to help you with. So I would definitely recommend the CAEL. It's a self-directed study, and you can see them available online on our website. Again, it's www.cael.ca. And the great thing to know is that the CAEL preparation pack is our most popular item right now, so we're getting a lot of feedback from test takers how important and how useful the CAEL preparation pack is. And then our newest study material is our academic vocabulary builder. So this is the newest item. We actually just released this just the other week. So it is newly designed, and it's just, there to improve your academic vocabulary as well. It's an online study material, so it's available online immediately after you purchase it, online in your CAEL account. Includes videos as well, 50 vocabulary items, there's quizzes, there's some fun things like flashcards and crossword puzzles as well. And it is our only study material that is accessible on a smartphone. So if you're looking to improve your academic vocabulary, to help you with the reading section where you need to be able to understand what words are being used in the reading passages, in the listening section where you're going to need to be able to understand what words are being said, whether it's the written or the writing or the speaking section where raters are looking for a different range of vocabulary. So academic vocabulary is so important to the CAEL in all 4 sections. So I definitely recommend this academic vocabulary builder if you're looking to improve that. Now I'm just going to give a few free study tips here for you guys here. So in the reading section, keep in mind that you are given a certain amount of time to read the passages and answer the questions. So you want to make sure that when you're preparing for the reading section, that you give yourself maybe only a certain amount of time to read, let's say, an academic article or even a news article. Give yourself only so much time to be able to read what was sent. And then also make sure that you practice skimming and scanning strategies. So especially in the reading section where you might find a few multiple choice questions, you should be able to anticipate what the answer is before you're even finishing the question, before finishing reading the question. So skimming and scanning will help you make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to finish the reading sections. We notice that those test takers who struggle with the reading section, some of them are reading every single word in the question, every single word in the passage, every single word in their answer. And unfortunately, if you're reading it very, very carefully, taking a long time to understand what each word means, you're going to have a tough time finishing and having a tougher time doing well in the reading section. So that's why you want to make sure that you practice these skimming and scanning strategies for the most important information. Then at the writing section, just make sure you portion your time at the beginning to prepare your thoughts. So we do provide you note papers, so you can kind of maybe write down what you want to say. If you just start writing and you don't really have a plan, unfortunately, readers can look at that. So definitely just make sure you plan what you want to say. The biggest tip I can give in the writing section is just make sure that you give yourself enough time to proofread. So we do give you 45 minutes for the writing section. We do include enough time to proofread. So make sure you take advantage of that. Fix any spelling, grammar, punctuation, fix any mistakes like that. And just make sure that you're happy with what you've written before the next section. And then make sure you practice writing within a word count. So we're typically asking you to write 1 to 2 pages in length. So if you only write, let's say, half a page, that is going to affect your score. Same thing if you're writing, let's say, 3 or 4 pages, that's going to affect your score as well. So just make sure that your essay is within the 1 to 2 pages in length. Then on the listening section, just make sure you familiarize yourself with listening to audio clips. They're so easy to find now on news websites or radio websites. So easy to find. And then on test day, again, as I mentioned, the audio clips, the audio lecture can only be played once. So do just make sure that you pay very close attention to what is being said. And again, we do provide you note papers. So definitely take advantage of that in the listening section. As I mentioned before, just make sure that you are only writing down the important information that you're hearing, and don't try and write every single word down because you're not going to have enough time to finish, unfortunately. Then in the speaking section, I'm sure everyone is doing this already, but make sure you practice speaking English with friends and families and colleagues, but also make sure that you practice speaking in front of a computer by yourself, just because that's how the CAEL is going to be formatted. And then on test day, when the opportunity arises, try and use examples from your personal experiences as much as possible. So in the speaking section, if you're making up a lot of facts or information, you're going to pause more often, you're going to sound less confident, sound less natural, you're going to say or ah more often, and that can affect your score. So in the speaking section, if you're able to use a personal experience, even if you're changing some of the information, you're going to sound more natural, you're going to sound more confident, you're going to pause less, say or ah less, and that's going to help you as well. And then one thing I want to provide you guys with today is our CAEL scoring criteria. So this is what our raters are looking for when they're providing you a score in the reading section, the listening section, the writing section, and in the oral language test or speaking section. So I'm going to read off what our raters are looking for if they're giving you the highest scores, the 80 or 90. Of course, as I mentioned before, the institutions that you're applying to, they may not need that score that high, but you kind of always want to aim for the highest score. Hopefully you get that, because if you're aiming for the highest, that helps you prepare to get the highest score that you need. So in the reading section, our raters are looking for that you're able to read academic texts with ease, demonstrating comprehension equal to that of experienced academic readers. And in the listening section, our raters are looking that you're able to comprehend lectures as well as an experienced academic listener. In the writing section, our raters are looking that you're able to write with authority and style, demonstrating mastery of appropriate, concise, and persuasive academic writing. And in the speaking section, our raters are looking that you're able to speak with authority on a number of topics, that you're able to demonstrate that you can control nuance, and speak with spontaneity and comprehensibility as well. So again, those are what our raters are looking for. I mean, if you're, again, those are what they're looking for if they're giving you the highest score in all 4 of our test components. And then one thing that I want to mention quickly as well is that we do have an online information session about the CAEL essay workshop available on April 6th at 2:30 in the afternoon Vancouver time, or 5:30 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. And so what this information session is there to help you prepare for the essay portion of the CAEL. So we hear a lot of feedback that test takers want even more preparation for the writing section. That's why we have created the CAEL preparation pack, which is designed to help you with essay skills, but also our academic vocabulary builder, which we've just released to help you prepare. But we also do these CAEL essay workshops to help you prepare for the writing section as well. So it's 1 hour, just like our information session here today, and it will help you identify the skills you need to improve on the writing section. And it's helping you work toward achieving a score of 70 in the writing section. So it does include a sample responses, what was good about the response, what was something that needed to be worked on the response. It does provide you with an actual checklist that you get to keep, helping you prepare for the test. And you also get to participate in group discussions during the information session as well. So if you're looking to prepare for the CAEL, I mean, this is free. So again, it's on Thursday, April 6th at 2:30 in the afternoon Pacific time here in Vancouver, or 5:30 in the afternoon Eastern time. So you can sign up for the information session on our website, www.cael.ca. And I would strongly recommend it to help for the writing section, and just make sure that you get the score that you need. And then lastly, I do want to quickly give a shout out that we are introducing a computer edition of our CAEL assessment coming up soon. So it is like the paper-based reading, writing, and listening section that I've mentioned already. It's an integrated test where you're going to have the same topic for the reading, the writing, and the listening sections. So it is a computer version of that CAEL assessment that we've already gone through. But right now we actually are offering a CAEL Computer Edition pre-test. And so this is a free opportunity to experience practicing taking the computerized CAEL Computer Edition in an actual test environment. So we are offering the CAEL Computer Edition pre-test in Vancouver and Toronto and a couple other different locations if you go onto our website. So not only do you get to experience what the CAEL Computer Edition is going to be like, that will help you prepare even for the paper edition that I've just had an information session on. But so not only does that help you prepare for the CAEL, but if you do take our CAEL CE or CAEL Computerized Edition pre-test, we are offering a 50% off a future CAEL test if you take that pre-test. So definitely take advantage of that. Not only do you get actual practice taking the test, you get a discount, and it's going to help you prepare even further. It's a free sample test in a lot of ways to help you prepare for the CAEL. So again, you can sign up for the pretest online on our website, www.cael.ca. I would definitely recommend that you do that. Great, well, we have reached the actual end of the information session. So I have talked on for about 40 minutes now. So if you do have any questions, again, press the orange arrow on the top right-hand side of the page, and then you'll be able to type into the question box, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks for your patience today, guys. I know you all held off on questions until now, so I really appreciate that. Now, of course, if you do think of any other questions after the information session is over, we do have, you can always contact us by email, so info@cael.ca, by phone, 1-855-520-2235. And as you can see, we also have a Facebook and a Twitter, so there's where you'll be able to ask more questions. And we also do promote different promotions and discounts on our Facebook and Twitter as well as a newsletter, as I mentioned. But great, yeah, definitely go ahead with any questions that you have. Thanks, guys. All right, we have a few questions. Awesome. So Donna is asking, I cannot take the computer practice if I'm over 25. There are 5, I guess, requirements that are test development, test research and development group is looking for when giving this practice test. So if you have to meet at least 2 of those 5 requirements, so just make sure that you are. Unfortunately, if you're not, though, we wouldn't be able to take the practice test currently. We are looking to expand the practice test, hopefully, to more people, but unfortunately, right now it is 2 of those 5 requirements listed on our pre-test website. Thanks, Donna. Donna's asking another question as well. Can I refer to the reading sections when I am answering reading and writing questions? Absolutely. So in your essay, for example, you can even quote what you read in the reading section, let's say a sentence here or there, to kind of back up your point in the essay. Absolutely. David's asking, if I apply for permanent residence, do they accept the CAEL? Unfortunately not. So the CAEL is an academic test. If you're looking to apply for an institution like the ICCRC or university or a college or another professional association. Another professional association. If you're applying for permanent resident status, I would recommend our CELPIP test. So if you go to www.celpip.ca, we have our CELPIP general test that you can take if you're looking to apply for permanent resident status. Thanks, David. Basai is asking, is there any locations one can take the test aside from Canada? Unfortunately, currently the CAEL can only be taken in Canada, Basai. Definitely keep checking our websites, but if you would need to be in Canada to take the CAEL. Mohammed's asking, what is the difficulty level of the test? So that's why we have that free sample test for you, Mohammed. I would definitely recommend that you take that. That's going to give you a really good idea of how difficult you find the CAEL and what areas you would need to prepare on. Unfortunately, the difficulty level is very subjective. It's going to depend on each different test taker. Someone might find it very easy, and someone might find it very difficult. And I'm sure most people find it, kind of in the mid-range. But yeah, it depends on each test taker how difficult you find it. But if you take the free sample test and you find that it is something that you're struggling with quite a bit, that you're having difficulty with, definitely take advantage of the study material that we offer. We get a lot of feedback from those test takers that have the study material that they really help with receiving the score that they need on the CAEL. So definitely make sure that you prepare as much as possible if you've taken that free sample test and you're finding it difficult. Even taking maybe 2 or 3 months to make sure that you've fully prepared for the test. And that's just to make sure that you get the score that you need. Even if you find the free sample test very easy, for example, yes, I would still recommend preparing for the CAEL, taking advantage of the study material, just to make sure, again, that you get the score that you need. Thanks, Mohammed. Great question. Ahmed saying, thank you, Grant, for the great session. No, thank you, Ahmed. So he's asking, my first question is about the recorrection option. What about that? So we do have a reevaluation procedure if you do feel that you're, let's say sorry, I'm going to start that from the beginning. Sorry, Ahmed. So we do have a reevaluation procedure. What that means is that if you feel that your test was scored incorrectly, your responses will be reevaluated. So you can request that as long as your test was within 6 weeks of the time that you want to request a reevaluation, and that can be requested online on our website in your CAEL account. So that's how you request a reevaluation. So there's definitely an option if you do feel that your that your test was scored incorrectly. Tamir's asking a question that we get a lot. So what is the weight of each part of the exam? Reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Is it 25% each? So no. So the CAEL, the overall score that you receive is not an average of all 4 of the test components. So you're not able to add up, let's say, your reading, your writing, your listening, and your speaking score and divide that by 4, and that's your overall score. So what happens is that your overall score, one test component is weighed higher towards the overall score than the other test components. So for example, the writing section might be weighed higher towards the overall score, depending on the test topic that you receive, or it could be the listening section or the reading section. So it is dependent on the test topic that you receive on test day. So yeah, one component, whether it be the reading, the writing, the speaking, or the listening section, will be weighed higher towards the overall score than another section. Sai is asking, does the helpful study material attract extra charges? Yes, so you could purchase the study material that we have online on our website, www.cael.ca. Donna is asking, in the oral language test, I can refer to text in front of me? Absolutely. So the questions that you're receiving, you'll be able to have the question the whole time during the speaking section. Absolutely. Ahmed's got a few questions here. So he's asking, you said you're using Canadian English. As you know, that Canadian spelling might be different, and some words are required to use the Canadian spelling. So no, we do accept both Canadian spelling and American spelling. So for example, here in Canada, we would spell the word favorite, F-A-V-O-U-R-I-T-E. In America, it would be spelled favorite without a U, so F-A-V-O-R-I-T-E. So we do accept both Canadian or American spelling. But you're also asking in writing how misspelling is count. So spelling does count towards your score. So make sure that you are using the correct spelling, whether it's Canadian or American spelling. But yes, the spelling does absolutely count towards your score. So you said listening and writing would take 2 hours. How many questions in each? So that depends on the topic that you receive and the test that you receive. Definitely make sure that you take that free sample test to get a better idea of how the questions may be formatted. But there's not a specific amount of questions. Emma's asking a great question. So the one topic policy, what if I don't have enough information about that topic? So you actually are going to receive all of the information that you need. So we're providing you with the information about a topic. So even if you know something about a topic, for example, let's say you're an expert in the environment and your topic on test day is about the environment, we would strongly recommend that you only use the information that you've read and what you've heard in the reading and listening sections towards your writing section. You don't want to use information that you know from previous life. We're expecting you to only use the information in the listening and reading sections when you're answering the listening and reading questions, and that you're going to be backing up your points with what you've read and what you've heard in the writing section. So for the writing section, is there a specific number of words to use? No, so as I mentioned, we're typically asking you to write 1 to 2 pages in length for the writing section. Thanks, Ahmed. Those are some great questions. No problem. Definitely not too many questions. You can have as many questions as you need. Thanks, Ahmed. David Park saying thank you for the information session. Thank you, David. Mohammed's asking what the CAEL is like compared to IELTS. Unfortunately, I haven't taken the IELTS myself, so I don't have too much familiarity. I do know that our assessment is cheaper in terms of the registration fee, and I do know that we use Canadian English and accents. So in some other tests, you might use British or Australian accents or English, and those can be a little bit fast, but a little bit hard to understand, so we are using Canadian English and accents. Asma's asking a great question. So is there a headphone in the listening section? So no, in the listening section, there's going to be speakers in the test center, and you're all going to be hearing the audio at the same time. Donna's asking a question about Oral Language Test 5, about how there's no handouts about the information. For that, I would recommend emailing us at info@cael.ca, and we'll certainly be able to look into that and assisting with that type of question. But we don't provide handouts on the website in terms of preparing for the CAEL, because you are going to be receiving a different topic on test day, so you're not able to prepare a certain topic before the actual test day. Hope that answers that question there. Don's asking, the reading test, is the reading on the same screen during questions, or I have to screen back and forth? So remember that the reading, the writing, and the listening sections are on paper, so they're not in front of a computer. We do have a computer edition, again, coming up in the near future. But for the reading section and the listening and the writing, it is all paper-based. So they are going to be on the same page as the questions. So I'd recommend, again, taking that information session. Sorry, you've taken the information session. I would recommend taking the free sample test, because that's going to give you a really good idea of what the test booklet looks like, because we do have a sample test booklet with the questions and answers, where you would write the questions, sorry, where you would write the answers with the questions underneath. Thanks, Donna. Basaya saying thank you. This is very helpful. Oh, thank you, Basaya. Thanks for joining us today. Glad you found it useful. Donna's asking, is that 1 to 2 pages clear on the writing booklet, or is booklet smaller? Again, I would take the free sample test. We do have a sample writing booklet, so you'll be able to see what the booklet looks like. Donna's asking, can we mark the reading text underlined, for example? Yeah, so the reading, the actual passage that you're reading is yours during the whole test. We're not going to grade anything that you've written on the actual passages that you've read. So absolutely, you can certainly mark the reading section. You can highlight things, underline things, put a little note next to them. Absolutely. No problem, Donna. Thanks for all your questions today. Great, so we do have about 10 more minutes for any questions that you do have. Oh, we've got another one right now. So Mohammed's asking, how can we assess ourselves on the sample test? So the sample test doesn't not provided answers on the sample test, Mohammed. What we're doing with the sample test is giving you an idea of what the CAEL is like, what the format is like, and how prepared you feel. So I would recommend, if you're looking to find out how well you're doing on the CAEL and how prepared you feel in terms of getting what the answers are for the questions, those test takers preparation guides that we have, again, they do include numerous practice tests, and we do provide answer keys. So you're going to be able to see how well you're doing and how much you need to prepare on in those test takers preparation guides. But the free sample test doesn't provide answers just because it is an idea of what this CAEL is like. Thanks, Mohammed. As long as asking the order of the sections. So typically you're going to be doing the reading section, the writing section, the reading section, the listening section. You're going to have more reading, and then you're going to have the writing section, and after that is the oral language test. But the oral language test can sometimes take place before the reading, writing, and the reading, listening, and writing test as well. Don is asking, do we get email results 15 business days later by mail, or is the email of scores sent sooner? So results are posted online in 15 business days, and then we send the hard copy official score report only to any institutions that you're applying to. So you don't actually get a hard copy official score report yourself. The hard copy official score report is only sent to the institutions that you've asked us to send them to. Just because this is an academic test, the institutions that you're applying to actually want to see the hard copy official score report directly from us and not from the test taker. So that's why the results are only sent to the institutions that you're applying to as a hard copy official score report. But you can see your results online in your CAEL account anytime that you need to, up to 2 years from the time that you take the test. Mohammed's saying, thank you for the answer. Look forward to take the sample test. Perfect. We'll definitely take that, Mohammed. And if you do need any more information, including tips or questions after you've taken that sample test, definitely send us an email, give us a phone call, or again, contact us on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll be happy to answer those for you, Mohammed. Donna's asking, but schools like the TDSB and TESL are not on the school list. Can I submit an email? So I would recommend sending us an email, so info@cael.ca, just asking about the TDSB and TESL, and then we can certainly verify and help you with that. But the institutions do not accept an email version of the scores. They do accept only an official score report. And the Don is asking also, the time allocations, does that include reading time? Yes, it does. Perfect, thanks, Donna. Great, so we've just got about 8 more minutes for any more questions here. So definitely take advantage of that. If you're wondering how to ask a question, again, you just want to press the orange arrow at the top right-hand side, and you'll be able to type into the question box. Don's asking how many test takers are in a center at one time. It does depend on the test center, so there could be 30 test takers at once, there could be 10, there could be, it really depends on the test center, how many computers it fits in the oral language for the oral language test, and just how many test takers are registered as well. But the test is taken in a group sitting, so the reading, the writing, the listening, and even the speaking test are taken in a group sitting. So it's not that you talk to other test takers in a group sitting, you are taking the test independently by yourself, but there are going to be other test takers there taking the test at the same time. Great, so it looks like we've still got time for more questions, but I did just want to mention a few things. So in terms of preparing, as I've mentioned so much during the information session, please make sure you take that free sample test. Please make sure that you view our study material. As I mentioned before during the information session, those that do well on the CAEL, we notice are preparing as much as they can for the CAEL, and that's why we include more and more study material. Again, we've just created that or released that academic vocabulary builder just the other week. So we're always looking to add more and more to help to prepare. So definitely take advantage of the study material. It is designed by us at the Paragon Testing Enterprises, so it is going to help you directly with the CAEL. It's going to provide you skills and strategies and give you an idea of what our raters are looking for. And then just make sure, again, that you take your original valid identification that you registered with and a copy of your test admission ticket before you go to the test as well. Donna's asking, is there a bell or a giver calls out to drop pen when a section time is over? That's an excellent question, Donna. I have actually not been at one of the test centers before to see specifically how they move on to the next section. You can always send us an email at info@cael.ca, and we'll certainly be able to verify and answer that for you, Donna. There's always new questions. So we do have these information sessions every month. So we are going to be having another information session in April. Of course, these slides, the information that we present is going to be very similar. But Donna's asked some really great questions, as is everyone else. So there's always going to be new types of questions for sure. So thank you for all the great questions today. Mohammed's asking, 70 points are considered at what level? I can actually go back to that slide for you, Mohammed. So that's going to give you an idea of what we would say a score of 70, for example, would translate into. We would say that that means that you're able to use generally accurate language in most settings, and that some limitations and flexibility are evident, and that would translate into adept. Hope that helps, Mohammed. So Donna's asking, so all questions and our answers are done on booklet to write in, except for the listening portions. So the listening section is also in a book, a test booklet. So you are going to be writing your answer for the listening sections on test booklet as well, paper book. So what I mean by a test booklet is that we actually have an actual test itself. So that's where all the questions are, and that's where you write down the answers as well. The only exception to that is the speaking section, which is taken in front of a computer, and your responses are recorded and sent to our raters. Hope that helps, Donna. No problem. Ahmed's asking, I've not booked the test. Is there a deadline to book ahead of the test? So yes, you do want to make sure that you register at least a week in advance or a couple days in advance before the test. We'd recommend that you register well in advance though, because the test centers do fill up and you want to give yourself enough time to make sure that you get a seat. But definitely make sure that you prepare before you register for an actual test sitting. Make sure that you're confident and that you feel prepared before you go into the actual test. No problem, Mohammed. Thanks for all the questions today, guys. There's been some excellent questions. We do have a few minutes for any last-minute questions, but for anyone that is going to leave a little bit early, I just want to thank you again so much. Oops, I've gone over the end of the information session. So for anyone that is going to be leaving a little bit early here, if you don't have any further questions, I do want to thank you again so much for joining us today. We do these information sessions to make sure that the information is clear on our website, to make sure that you guys are prepared. So you've done a great job with the first step, is making sure that you're preparing for the test. These information sessions include that. Again, make sure that you take that free sample test. Make sure that you take advantage of our study material. We wish you the best of luck. We all want you to do as well as possible. That's why we provide preparation. We don't want you going into the CAEL wondering, what is this test? I'm at the test itself, and I'm wondering, what is this test? We want you to go in knowing what the format is like, and not being surprised by what types of questions you might receive or what the format is like. So definitely, you guys have done a great job first joining this information session. Oh, and Ahmed saying thank you. Have a nice day. Awesome. You too, Ahmed. Thank you for joining us. Again, we do have time for any 2 or 3 more questions if anyone does have any more. But if not, again, I wish you the best of luck with your preparation. Definitely contact us if you think of any more questions, including on email or phone, or again, Facebook or Twitter. That's what we're there for. Definitely there to help you guys. But it looks like we are just at the end here. So I want to again thank you guys so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you found something to help you prepare for the CAEL, whether it's a sample test or a study material or there's free study tips. And I hope you know a little bit more what the CAEL is like. Definitely contact us if you have any more questions. But definitely best of luck on all your preparation and on the test itself, guys. Really appreciate you joining us today, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Thank you. Take care. Bye.